Hello, all. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you this week to talk about consumer behavior. It's one of the most important chapters in the book because if we don't understand the consumer and we don't understand how they behave and how they purchase things, we can't have any hope of understanding what will motivate them to purchase something. In other words, how to advertise to them, how to interact with them to get them to purchase our product or our service over the competition. So we're going to spend about 45 minutes on this. I hope that you'll be able to watch it all the way through and that it helps you take the quiz that for this chapter. And as always, if you have any questions, you can always text me. I will have my phone while I am down in Phoenix trying to wrangle all of my husband's associates. So here we go. The consumer purchase continuum. Okay, so the first thing we need to understand is how exactly people go about figuring out that they need to buy something. Okay, so we're going to talk about how people buy things first, not necessarily what influences them to buy what they buy. We'll get to that in the second half of the chapter. So there are 5 stages, and one thing that you'll notice in this book is the book loves lists. There are lists in every single chapter, and this is, sort of one of the first ones. The purchase continuum. The first thing that happens is the problem recognition, perceiving a need. Seeking information is the second part. Evaluating alternatives is the third. Actually buying is the fourth. And then the post-purchase behavior. So I want you guys to make note of this. I think this is very important. The purchase decision, the actual buying of the product, is the fourth thing in this list. Now, that is not to say for everything that we buy, we go through each one of these stages in detail. So the amount of time it takes to go through problem recognition, information search, and alternative evaluation can be months or it can be seconds. But for the most part, we all go through all of these steps to actually make a decision. We're going to talk about each one of these individually here in the next couple of slides. So the first one that we have to talk about is how do you perceive a need? How do you know when you need something? Okay, is this a conscious or an unconscious decision? For most of us, it's a conscious decision. For most of us, it is, I woke up this morning and I didn't have any shampoo or I didn't have any toothpaste, and I realized that I need to go buy shampoo or toothpaste. All right, so it might be waking up one morning and figuring out you need something little in your life that just helps your life go right. Toothpaste, shampoo, deodorant, soap, laundry detergent, milk, whatever it is. Okay, it might be a slightly bigger decision in that you walk out to go to your car and you get into your car and your car won't start. And you realize, even though you've been putting it off for a while, that you need a new car, right? Those are conscious decisions. Those are things that we realize because we had something, we ran out of it, or it quit working, and we now know that we need to replace it. There are some unconscious needs, and we'll talk about some of these products that we buy that we didn't know that we need. And those are some of the things, I liken them to the things that are sold on late night television at 2 o'clock in the morning where you're watching the people sell you this stuff and you go, wow, I didn't know I needed that. Okay. If you say to yourself, wow, that's really awesome, I didn't know I needed that, then what you have is an unconscious need. Now, we've talked about this a lot, but there's needs and there's wants, okay? So needs are the things, and we've broken it down to the very basics: food, shelter, clothing, air, water, okay? I want a new car. I might need a new car. Car might become a need if you have a job and you have to get from your house to your job and there's no option for public transportation. All of a sudden a car is a need, and a functional, reliable automobile is a need. So we're going to talk about need versus want, because as marketers, we have to understand how the consumer views what we're selling them. Are we selling to something that is a complete need, or are we selling to something that is a want, and we have to convince people that they need it now versus later? Okay, so there are a couple of things that you can put off buying, go without a couple of days, do without, etc., etc. But one of the big things that we have to figure out when we perceive this need is, do we need this stuff now, or can it wait till later? Can it wait a couple of days? I'm going shopping in a couple of days. I can put it off. And then how long is that amount of time that we can actually put this decision off? All right, so we search for information. Okay, we search for information. This may be very fast, as I said in the beginning. This may take 3 seconds. It may take 3 months. Okay, we search for information about the products that we could potentially buy. So we have this need. How do we fulfill this need? How do we make this need go away? What are our options? So one of the first things we do is an internal search. Okay, I used product X in the past. I used Crest toothpaste. I like Crest toothpaste. I will use Crest toothpaste in the future because the Crest toothpaste has continued to be a product that has served my needs and performed exceptionally well, and that's all I need to know. All right, so do I have past experience with the product or the product category? The next thing is, what have I personally read or heard about the product? Okay, what have I read or heard about the company? Have I read or heard something in the news lately, or in the false news or whatever else that may influence my perception of the company that makes the product that I want to buy in a good or bad way? So I'm searching my own memory banks. Okay, my own past use experience, my own memory banks, what I know to be true about the product that I need. Now, generally, if the product is worth more money, costs more money, like a car, we do an external search. In other words, we ask other people. We go looking for other information. And I'm going to use the example of a car throughout this all because it's a really good example where people do a lot of research, and there are a lot of sources of information out there that people can use to find information about a car. So one of the first external sources that we use are personal sources, and by that I mean our friends and our family. So, hey, I have to buy a new car. What have you heard about XYZ brand? What do you think about the car that you drive? What do you think about the car that your parents drive? How do you like the car? How do you think it performs? Does it get good gas mileage? We go and we ask all of our friends, right? The second place we go are public sources. There are public sources of information. The J.D. Power and Associates is one of them. We also go to the Kelley Blue Book. We go to Carfax.com. We go out to the newspapers. We go look for public sources. Okay, so there's a difference between public sources and marketer-dominated sources. Marketer-dominated sources come from the brands themselves. In other words, you go to the Hyundai website, you go to the BMW website, you go to the Toyota website, you go to the Jeep website and look on their website and then read and digest all the information that that particular website gives you. Now, in theory, public sources, in theory, are supposed to give you an unbiased look at the automobile. So I think on the next slide, we talk about Consumer Reports. And Consumer Reports gives us, in theory, an unbiased evaluation of all the potential options, all the potential features that are out there for whatever category of product we're buying. And it is not supposed to be influenced or paid for by the marketer-dominated sources. Marketer-dominated sources, such as the BMW website, they're going to tell you the best possible qualities about their car. They're not going to tell you the worst things about their car. They're not going to tell you it barely meets safety standards, or it barely meets gas guzzler standards, or it barely meets, comfort standards. Whatever it is, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you all the rosy, pretty pink picture of what they want you to know about their particular product. All right, so how do we evaluate and choose them? So we've gone out, we've looked for all this information, we've collected all this information about this new car that we're going to buy. And you guys may or may not have already done the exercise that I had for you, where I made you list everything that you might possibly want in a car. So that's what I want you to think about right now. So all of those things, we have lists in our minds. We always make lists, and it's important to understand we make those lists because they're evaluative criteria. In other words, what is most important to us and what is least important to us? What don't we care about? Okay, we don't care about the third row. We don't care about cup holders. We don't care about a sunroof. We don't care about certain things, but some things are really important to us. One of the new things that's really important, cup holders has been displaced as one of the most important things. One of the new things that's most important to us is connectivity. So does it have USB ports to charge? Does it have wireless charging? Does it have Bluetooth? Can it connect to my Apple Play or my Google Play or my Android Play or whatever it is? Can it do that for us? Those have become some of the most important things. We need to determine what those evaluative criteria are, and we look at what's most important to us. In other words, we finish the sentence, my car must have blank, fill in the sentence. My car must have this, okay? We use these evaluative criteria then to come up with a consideration set. In other words, all of the cars that we would consider purchasing have to meet our must-haves from our evaluative criteria. They must have USB ports. They must have Apple Play connectivity. They must have, insert whatever it is, those must have. And we go through all of the cars that are potentially out there, we could potentially buy, and we come up with our consideration set. Our consideration sets are only the products that meet our must-have needs. Okay, we will only consider those. Now, we've got this consideration set of 5 to 10 cars. How do we make that decision? Okay, this is where some of our nice to haves come in. And if you've done the exercise, you'll know that we're going to talk about it'd be nice if my car had X. Okay, it would be nice if I could get X. We use some of those nice to haves to then filter out how can we get the best deal. Okay, so how we make the decision is going to be based on a bunch of different things. But first, we're going to talk about, I wanted to show you this. This is the Consumer Reports, and this is an assessment of cell phones. And so what I wanted to show you this because Consumer Reports is usually pretty good about going out and doing market research and coming back with the nation. So 330 million people, all of us, our evaluation of cell phones generally hinge on the following list down the side. So retail price, the display, the audio quality, I can't talk today, text messaging, web capability, camera quality, and the battery life. Okay, so at the time when they wrote this, if you were to ask all Americans how they picked a phone, they would pick a phone based on these 7 qualities. And so then Consumer Reports goes out and does an assessment, a third-party independent assessment of all of the phones and rates them in terms of how well they do on each one of these qualities, whether they're average, above average, or superior. And we can use this information then to understand, okay, so we're going to buy a phone. Well, I might only have $100 to spend, so I get one of the phones on the right, or maybe the iPhone, maybe I go for less of an iPhone, I go for the iPhone 5 over one of the phones on the right, but I can use this to say, okay, what am I willing to give up? What becomes most important to me? What do I think is most important? And then we use this information and then, this gives us a consideration set, and then we use this information to help us with the purchase decision. Now, that being said, purchase decisions are often influenced by a bunch of other stuff, okay? So we've narrowed it down to the cars we would consider purchasing. Then we either go online, and most of it's done online now, so there may not be any human interaction. But car shopping is also one of those things where you have to go out and you might need to sit in the car, drive the car, test drive the car, get a feel for it, at which point your purchase decision is then influenced by a few other things. So some of those things that can influence our purchase decision, when and where to buy, have to do with the surroundings in the store, or the surrounding at the auto store, or the people who are helping us, whether they're very helpful and they're very friendly and they make us feel at home, or whether they're cold and they're not helpful and we would just rather run for the hills and not buy anything from them. So we evaluate how clean is the store, we evaluate how friendly is the staff, we evaluate the product displays, we evaluate the quality of the test drive, we evaluate the quality of the coffee, we evaluate the quality of the employees, and we evaluate their dress, we evaluate their mannerisms, we evaluate how they speak to us, their willingness to help us get the best deal possible. And then on top of that, we do this by price. If we can get 10% off, if we wait 3 more days for the President's Day sale to start, we get extra money off of our car, I'm willing to wait it out for 3 more days to get that sale price. So it might also be a price thing. It might be waiting for a little bit because we get a better price. And now with the internet, of course, you can search for a product in the internet and Google will pull up, you could buy it here, it's this price, but we found it online elsewhere for this price. It's less, it's more, it's whatever else. This seller has a better reputation and a better rating than this seller over here. And we use all of this to evaluate what we're ultimately going to buy and then where we're going to buy it from. So that being said, we go out, we buy the product. So we've got the car, we drive the car. Hopefully the car lives up to the hype. Hopefully we are so ecstatic about our car. We love everything about our car. We drive it, we love it, and nothing goes wrong. If something goes wrong, hopefully whatever it is, we can take it right back to the dealership and they take care of it, no questions asked, and we're all happy campers. Okay, so when we talk about post-purchase behavior, we have to talk about our comparison of our expectations versus what really happened. All right, so we have expectations. We expect we're going to get this gas mileage. We expect the car to work. We expect the car not to die. We expect it's, whatever feature we have on it, heated seats or a heated steering wheel, we expect it to work that minute. And if it doesn't, that affects our post-purchase behavior. It affects our customer satisfaction, and it might create cognitive dissonance. Okay, so the first thing is the consumer satisfaction surveys. All right, so most all of us have taken that. So we go to a restaurant, and at the end of our stay, they come up with a receipt and they say, "Hey, if you take the survey," now it's not even on the receipt. There's a little computer screen on the table. You take the survey right there of the server, you rate them, and you say, "I like the service. I didn't like the service." It used to be back in the day, and these numbers are really, really, really old. Okay. But they tell a story, and that is that satisfied customers, we tell 3 people, "Hey, yeah, I went out there, had a really good meal at the Chili's the other day, had a really good meal at Applebee's, or I bought my new car and I had a really good experience at AutoNation." But I tell like my 2 besties. I tell my 2 best friends, and that's it. Maybe I tell my mom. I don't know. I tell 3 people. But if I had a bad experience with a person or with a product or with a service, I tell a gazillion people. And it used to be back before social media, I'd tell like 9 people. So I'd tell 3 times as many people that I was unhappy with something as I would that I was happy with something. That's a problem. Okay, now we have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Snapchat, we have all sorts of other places that we can put information out there. We don't just tell 9 people. We tell the 900 people we consider our friends on Facebook or our friends on Instagram. And then they share it, especially if you wrote something funny in a little chat, or, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad this didn't happen to me." And they share it with their 900 friends. So all of a sudden, we've not told 9 people, we've told 9,000 people. Okay? What we have to do as marketers is try to not have dissatisfied customers. I mean, it comes down to that. Let's not have dissatisfied customers. Cognitive dissonance is where you get post-purchase anxiety. So I walk off the lot and I'm really still worried. I'm worried that I've made a big mistake. I'm worried that I spent this amount of money. I'm worried that this car is a big risk because I don't have any experience with this brand. I'm worried. It's our job, my job, your job, everybody's job as marketers to try to minimize this cognitive dissonance. We want to minimize post-purchase anxiety. And to do that, we try to interact with our customers as much as possible. So after you buy a new car, you get a call 3 days later. How is it going? Most car manufacturers or sellers have instituted this, bring it back within 24 or 48 hours. If you don't like it, bring it back, no questions asked. We'll give you all of your money back. Okay, it's like a 48-hour test drive. So we're trying to minimize that risk for people, to minimize that cognitive dissonance, because honestly, the worst thing that could happen is we have a dissatisfied customer who tells 9,000 people. All right, so we have these customers, and we've been talking about this problem solving and how customers do this purchase behavior. We go through this purchase continuum, like I said, we could go through it in 3 seconds, or it could take 3 months. And what typically happens is whether or not you have routine problem-solving products, you have limited problem-solving products, or you have extended problem-solving products. I tend to liken this too to how much money, which is usually the main risk, you're outlaying, okay? So let's talk about routine problem-solving products. This is what I mentioned up front. You wake up in the morning and you go to take a shower and you realize you are out of shampoo, okay? We don't think about, oh, how many brands of shampoo are out there and how many could I choose from? And wow, that's a lot. Maybe I should try all of them and I just don't know what I'm going to do. And plus on top of that, there's so many different places that I could buy shampoo. No, we know the shampoo we like. We know the business that we buy it from that we like, Target, Walmart, King Super, Safeway, whatever it is. We buy one brand. We walk in the store. We go to the store we like. We walk in the store. We walk straight to the shampoo aisle. We walk straight to our shampoo. We grab the bottle. We walk out. We don't evaluate product attributes. We don't look for information from Consumer Reports about all the different types of shampoos. We don't spend a lot of time searching. We know what we want. We go in, we buy it. The only time you change that is, one, if the product didn't live up to its expectations, or two, if all of a sudden your seller is out of that product. So you walk into Target and all of a sudden they don't have the product that you want. Most of us have a backup for routine problem solving. If they don't have X, they will have Y, and I'll buy Y. Y is acceptable. I'll use it this one time. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I walk out the store, we're done. All right, routine problem solving. Milk, eggs, bread, dish detergent, laundry detergent, soap, shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, those levels, those types of products, right? Limited problem-solving products, I tend to say, although it's not always the case, these products might be slightly more expensive, okay? So what I mean by that is that they might be a little bit higher up. I tend to say these products are then under about $1,000. So these are products where we'd spend some time, we'd look at a bunch of different brands, we'd consider a bunch of different sellers, probably where we could get the best deal, we got the best customer service. We would definitely evaluate product attributes. We probably would go to a few external sources, our friends, our family, maybe some Consumer Reports type places, and we would probably spend at least a little time searching. So I tend to liken this to the purchase of TVs. Okay, so pretend that you're not poor college students that are starving at the present moment, and assume that you have some money laying around and your TV is not dead, but not working as great as it could be working, and you want to buy a new TV. We will most likely look at a bunch of different brands. What brands of TV could I get that offer the TV in the size that I want? How many places can we get this particular TV? We can buy TVs at Walmart, we can buy TVs at Target, we can buy TVs at the big ginormous King Superstores, we can buy them at Costco, we can buy them at Sam's Club, we can buy them at Best Buy. We can buy them from a bunch of different places. So where can I get the best deal? We will probably ask a couple of our friends, hey, you bought a new TV last year. What do you like about your TV? What don't you like about it? What do you wish you had bought that you didn't get? And we probably spend a little bit of time searching, all right? Not a lot of time. And, that varies by person, but we spend some time because this is, still $1,000. It's a little bit of an outlay of money. Now, extended problem solving, it's easiest to understand when you're talking about high risk, which tends to mean high cost items. Okay, so there's a risk, whether it's I risk that I've wasted my money, or whether there's a social risk of people are going to think I made the wrong decision in doing this. It's going to risk potentially my family. It's going to risk my kids. So buying houses, buying cars, buying high ticket items, where if you make the wrong decision, there's high risk involved. These tend to be extended problem solving. You'll probably look at a large number of brands, okay? You will probably look at a large number of sellers, all the different places that we can buy a car these days, on the internet, off the internet, all the different dealerships, whether we get it used, whether we get it new, whether we get it certified pre-owned, all of these different options, right? We'll evaluate a number of product attributes. How many, miles per gallon does it get? All the lists that you guys made, we will evaluate that. We will most likely use a lot of external information sources. Then this is not just friends and family. We're talking information out on the internet. We're talking consumer reports. We're talking unbiased sources like the Kelley Blue Book. We are talking the newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, the Denver Post, whatever it is, and we will spend considerable time searching because that outlay of money is a risk for us. We could spend that money to do something else, and if we pick wrong, we cannot make that right very easily. So marketers, we have to understand this. We have to understand what type of a product are we selling. Are we selling a low involvement product? Are we selling one of these low risk routine products like cereal, like toothpaste, like shampoo, like conditioner, like soap? If we are, then what we have to focus on as marketers with our 4 Ps, so our product, our price, our place, our promotion, we have to focus on product quality, making sure that the product performs exactly the same way it did yesterday, or if we've improved it the exact same way we want it to tomorrow. Okay, we have to avoid stockouts, which means that's our place. That's the P for place. We want to make sure that the product is always available where the consumer wants to purchase it. And then we have to reduce cognitive dissonance with ads. In other words, what our ad says is what they should find in the store. If the ad says it's on sale, it better be on sale in the store. If the ad says you can get this size, you better be able to get this size in the store. So we want to reduce any of that, why would you say this and then give me that? That doesn't make any sense. High involvement, or those extended problem solving, high risk type products, if we're looking at it from a 4P standpoint, we use a lot of comparative ads, and we'll talk about this more in chapter 15. But comparative ads, and you'll see this a lot with cars, you compare your car to what you think your highest competitor is. So go out and look at car ads. Our car does this, their car does that. Our car does this, their car does that, okay? And on top of that, you use a lot of personal selling. In other words, especially with houses, you have a realtor. You have somebody holding your hand, guiding you along, doing a lot of the legwork, doing a lot of the evaluation so that they can find you, in theory, the perfect solution to your housing problem. Now, there are multiple influences on consumer behavior outside of sort of the purchase decisions that we're going to make. We are going to talk about 2 sides of these. Okay, so we are going to talk about the psychological influences, and we're going to talk about the sociocultural influences. We've talked briefly about situational, the social surroundings, the physical surroundings, what time of day it is, that kind of thing. We are not going to go into those into detail. So psychological influences, sociocultural influences. We're going to start there. Most of you guys have seen this. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you've taken Business 115, Intro to Business, you should have seen this. I put this down on the bottom because I saw it was a joke that we all need, below our psychological needs, those air, food, water, shelter, we need batteries, and then we need Wi-Fi. Batteries, chargers, and Wi-Fi before food, water, shelter. And if you were to ask my 11-year-old son, he'd tell you he needs batteries, chargers, and Wi-Fi before food. But so as a joke. Anyway, Maslow's hierarchy of needs is five levels. Physiological needs, that's what we've talked about. Those are our real basics. Like if nothing else, we need food, water, shelter, oxygen. I add clothes in there because, running around naked is frowned upon, right? We will not be in the market for anything else until we have those physiological needs taken care of. We have food on a regular basis. We have water on a regular basis. We have seemingly decent shelter, although that's debatable. We definitely have oxygen. Until those needs are met, we don't go looking for other things. We don't go looking for BMWs. We don't go looking for houses. We don't go looking for Gucci clothing or purses. We don't go looking for that because that's not what we need at the present moment. Once we have those basics taken care of, and I mean really basic, okay, we move up from there, we start looking at safety. So once we have food and water and some semblance of shelter, our needs as human beings, we start trying to look for better, safer places to live. So I get a job, which gives me a little bit more financial security, which takes care of some of my safety. That financial security allows me to rent an apartment in a slightly better section of town. It allows me to get a slightly better used car that's a little bit more reliable. Moving my family into a slightly better part of town helps keep me free from harm potentially. Depending on the job I have, I might be looking for a new job that is a safer job so that I'm around longer for my family. Once we feel safe in our environment, or as safe as we can be, then we start looking to our social needs. Then we start looking for friends. We start looking for belonging. We start looking for love. We start looking for that camaraderie in our workplace. Okay? All of these things, there are products that fit in all of these sections. So basic food, basic water, basic shelter. Those are things that people need to buy, or in other words, or barter for, okay? Safety needs, I need a slightly better car, so I need a slightly better used car. There are companies out there that sell slightly better used car. I need a slightly better apartment building. Well, there's a slightly better apartment building out there. Social needs, I need friendship. This is where, hey, I have $5, I can go meet my friend for a coffee. I have $5, I can go meet my friend for a beer. Okay, so you get belonging, you get love. You might be starting to do a little bit more on your education to get out there, to meet groups of people, being a little bit more social in some sort of a physical activity outlet, going hiking, going climbing, going bike riding, meeting people, like-minded people that would do the same things with you, all right? Once you have those needs met, then we start looking to personal needs. And by personal needs, I don't mean small things like toothpaste. I mean status, respect, prestige. In other words, I have a safe job. I have a good job. Now I want to be better at my job. I want the promotion. I want to be the manager, not just the employee, not just the minion. I want to be in charge of a couple of people. I need respect. I need prestige. There are products that go along with this that say I've hit a certain status. For women, it might be purses. Okay, so women, we have a thing for purses. Not to be sexist in any way, shape, or form. Used to be watches for men, cars for men. So I have this status. I have arrived because I drive X, Y, or Z car. I have arrived because I wear this type of clothing. I drink this type of drink. I wear these type of sunglasses. I carry this type of purse. Finally, there's the self-actualization needs. This is self-fulfillment. And this is really, these are the high-end products. I mean, once you get up to the self-actualization needs and the self-fulfilling needs, these are the stupid money products. These are the I've arrived and I have arrived and I have the money to spend on, stupid money products. Now, the deal is, depending on who your customer is, okay, their definition of a self-actualization need or a stupid money product is going to be different from the consumer sitting next to them. So I want you guys to look around the room when we're back in the room, and I want you to look at all the students, because all of you will have different self-actualization needs, and you'll all have different products because you're different consumers. We could lump you into different groups, but basically what I need to understand from a marketer is, who are my people? Who are my consumers? Because remember, it doesn't matter what I say and what I think, and it doesn't matter what my boss thinks. It only matters what the consumer thinks. And if the consumer thinks XYZ product that I sell is a self-actualization product, that's what it is, okay? Next, advertising. So we just finished the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago. As I'm filming it, it was literally last night. So I wanted to talk about ads and our brains, and the fact that our brains are giant filters. And I want you to think about how many messages you are bombarded with, whether it be an ad, whether it be an email from a friend, whether it be a message from a group to which you belong. Our brains are giant filters, and we need to sort through this information really quickly and then assess what information is really important to us. And we only remember what we want to remember, okay? We only remember what we want, what's important to us. So that first level, that selective perception, that first level of filtering, what you need to remember about that is that we literally will ignore things that we don't agree with, things that we don't like, people with whom we are currently upset, anything that that doesn't mesh with our current life situation and our current moral compass. All of that stuff, everything that we don't agree with, that just gets shoved to the side. Okay, so if you have a product and you're from a company and I don't agree with those company practices, I'm sorry, no matter how much advertising you shove at me, I'm most likely going to filter it out and not even pay attention to it. All right, so that second level, that paying attention, the green level, selective exposure, paying attention. So now I've got all these things that, okay, so you've made the cut because I agree with what you say. It's a product I bought before. I agree with your life philosophy. I agree with your political philosophy. I agree with your religious philosophy. I agree with whatever philosophy it is. Do I still pay attention to all of that? No, I do not, because there are only so many minutes in the day. However, we do pay attention to some of it, at least in that bubble. That stuff, we have the possibility. So the marketers have the possibility that we would pay attention to that stuff. The next level down, the purple one, is selective comprehension. That's interpreting. And when we pay attention, okay, we can be paying attention and not paying attention. How many of us use 16,000 devices? You know, we're watching TV and we're on our phone, and then we're on the tablet and we're listening to this and we're on this social media, and we're talking to the person next to us. Maybe we're just text messaging the person next to us. We're doing all of this kind of stuff. Selective comprehension is where you take a second and you actually really listen to what's being said or read what's being said. So you take the minute, you take the 30 seconds to read the advertisement, to read it in the magazine, to read it in the newspaper, to read it when it comes across your screen, to look at it, to understand what it's saying to you, to pay attention to what it wants you to pay attention to. Okay? So a lot of us watch the Super Bowl and may have actually paid attention to the commercials. It's the one day a year, 99% of the people watching television actually pay attention to the commercials. Doesn't mean we'll remember them. Okay, doesn't mean of the total number of ad spots, and I think it was something like 60 ad spots, doesn't mean you'll remember half of them. Okay, the selective retention's the most important. It's the one that gets us to the remembering. It's the one where we file that commercial in our memory banks and we're never going to forget it. And all of us have that one commercial that just stuck with us, where we think it's funny, we think it's humorous, it resonates with us, whatever it is, that we will remember it all the time. What I want you to take away from this, though, the really big thing is, just because you remember it does not mean you'll buy it. Okay? A lot of the really funny commercials that I remember, I am not the target audience for buying the product. I'm not in the market to buy something new, not in the market for that product right now. So just because you remember it does not mean you will buy it. It does move the product up slightly in your memory bank, so that if you have to do that alternative evaluation and get to a consideration set, it might make it there, but it won't necessarily always make it there. So how do we learn? Learning is one of the next psychological effects. How do we learn to do the things that we do? Okay, a lot of our learning is behavioral learning. Okay, so especially when you're a child. So I know that most of you don't have children, but when you were a child, you learned to do things by repetition, doing it over and over and over and over again. This is Pavlov's dog. Ring the bell, the dog gets fed. So every single time now you ring the bell, the dog drools, because the dog associates ringing the bell with getting some food. That's behavioral learning. So we learn when we're little that we're hungry. We learn when we're little to cry or throw a hissy fit about the fact that we are hungry. Our parents take the cue or the stimulus and then they feed us, which reinforces the fact that we throw a hissy fit, we throw a tantrum to get food because we're hungry. Okay, so advertisers use this as well. They use this repetitive advertising about, if you're hungry, get a burger. If you're hungry, get a burger. If you're hungry, get a burger. And then pretty soon you go, I'm hungry. I think I need a Whopper, or I need Five Guys, or I need Smash Burger, whatever it is. It's a learned behavioral response. You do it enough time and reinforce that enough time, and your product is a good product at a good price, and it becomes a repetitive action. Cognitive learning is what we do when we get a little bit older. Okay, now we still do both, but cognitive learning is when we can get to the point where we think and we reason, and it's problem solving. So sometimes some of the stuff we actually have to stop and think about. So what I want you to understand is behavioral learning, that goes back to a lot of those routine problem solving type products, whereas cognitive learning, where you think, you reason, you do some mental problem solving, especially because you may not have direct experience. Like, I've never bought a house before, I've never bought a car before, so I have to think about this, I have to reason it, I have to problem solve with it, I have to look for information. That's cognitive learning. So I do this process where generally cognitive learning is where you spend more time in that purchase continuum. You spend more time looking for information. You spend more time doing alternative evaluation. And we have products where you want them to pick your product over the competitive product, and you want them to do it in a rational manner. So Advil, a pain medication, is a headache remedy. We want you to know that, okay? We want you to think about it. We want you to reason it out yourself, and then we want you to pick us, okay? Because headaches aren't something that, in theory, hopefully happen every day. Regardless of where we end up, whether we're a thinking product where we have to do a lot of evaluation, or whether it's just a routine product where we do behavioral learning, the ultimate goal is brand loyalty. So we want people to come back to our brand all the time. Now, this is important, and I know we have kind of talked about this before because I pulled it up because it's important to your paper that you're writing for me. So, how you live. Okay, remember back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So you start out in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You start out as a survivor. You start out with him as, do I have food, shelter, water? Do I have that taken care of? There is a group within the United States, within every single country, where they're survivors. They are literally, it's all they can do to get food. It's all they can do to have minimal shelter. It's all they can do to have water every day, to just survive through the next day, right? Then, you go all the way up Maslow's hierarchy of needs to that self-actualization. And what you're going to see is that there's a group of people, these innovators and achievers, that are the people that have worked their way all the way through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And they're looking for an entirely different level of products, okay? Now, this company, Strategic Business Insights, has done extensive market research with the entire U.S. population, and they have a 30-second question, or around a 30-question questionnaire, which some of you have already taken, that you answer these questions, and it puts you in a box, and it's relatively accurate which box it puts you in, meaning it can tell by the way you answer the questions which one of these you fall in. Are you a survivor? Are you a striver? Are you a maker? Are you a believer, an experiencer, a thinker, an achiever, or an innovator? Okay, so where do you fit in all of these boxes? And what it will do is it'll give you your main box where you are right now, and it'll give you a secondary box. And the way it works most of the time, is the primary box that you're in, that's the box you're in now. Your secondary boxes tends to be the box you're trying to get to. Now, that doesn't always work that way. This, however, is highly accurate. And if you asked this company, I want to know on this particular block in Westminster, so the people around Front Range Community College, you want to know a breakdown of how many of them are innovators and how many of them are strivers, you can go to Strategic Business Insights, and it can give you that data by zip code. It can give you down to the block, like down to, this is the block that I live on, this is the block I grew up in, and these are the people that live on that block, okay? Because we tend to live with or by people who are in the same bucket as we are, okay? So keep that in mind. You should have already looked at that. If you haven't looked at this, you need to be looking at it because it's imperative for your first consumer memo. All right? Now, attitudes. We all have attitudes. My little boy has more attitude than any one person should possibly have. So, we all come with egos. We all come with attitudes. We all come with, we know this, been there, done that. So how, as a marketer, how do I change people's attitudes? Because I have to change their attitude in order to get them to potentially change products, to try my product, to switch from whatever product they were doing to whatever product they are doing, that we want them to buy or use now. So there's 3 ways that I can potentially change somebody's attitude. Okay, the first way is to change their beliefs about something. So Coors did this when they put the mountains on the Coors. They're brewed in the Rocky Mountains. It's Rocky Mountain cold. And they tried to change your attitude about how beer in the United States, how we should drink beer. And in the United States, we drink beer, it's ice cold. We don't drink lukewarm beer. Now, this would not work in Germany because in Germany, you drink lukewarm beer. Okay, you drink room temperature beer. Beer is not served cold. So this wouldn't work outside the US. But what they were trying to do was convince people that we have a way to show you that our beer is ready to be consumed, and you don't know that with the other people. So their beer might be lukewarm, their beer might be bad, their beer, so if it's not cold, it's bad. That's the belief we were trying to change. Cold, ice cold is the best beer you could possibly drink. We give you a way to see that it's ice cold. Only drink it when it's ice cold. So I've now changed your beliefs that ice cold beer is the way to go. The next thing we can do is change the importance of an attribute. So this is what's happened in the last couple of years. There's been all of these words thrown around, especially with meat and products, so meat and hamburger, pork, etc., etc. So we've gone from all natural. So we throw around words like no hormones, no antibiotics. That was kind of the first way that it started. Then we threw out around this is all natural chicken. Well, how else would chicken be? What is an unnatural chicken? Have any of you guys ever stopped to think about what an unnatural or a not all natural chicken is? So there's no hormones, there's no antibiotics, there's no extra saline injected, there's no extra water injected. And then we went on to it's organic or not organic, and then we have free range, and then we have cage free, and then we have grass fed, and we have non-GMO, and so we have all of these wordings that we've changed the importance. Like this is the most important thing. So right now, non-GMO is sort of the most important attribute to see on any particular labeled product. Okay, so we change those importance of those attributes, and then we can label my product as X, Y, or Z. So my product is organic, my product is non-GMO, and I've made that important to you, and so now I'm the only product that delivers on that important attribute, so you buy my product. Finally, we just change the attributes. I'll make it be said that changing the importance of the attributes, you don't change anything about it. You're still making chicken the way you made chicken, and hopefully you're not lying, but it might come to that. Changing the attributes means really changing the attributes. So I put Tide up there because it's a good example. If you go down the laundry detergent aisle, there are 17,000 variations of Tide. It used to be, and even 25 years ago, it was Tide powder, and that was it. And then they started changing scents, and then they with or without the bleach. So now you have, and then you had scent free because the scents were too much for people. And now we have HE, and then we had liquid, and now we have pods, and now we have all of these different versions, whether it's powder, liquid, or pod, without bleach, without scent, without HE, for high efficiency washers, without. So you can change the attribute. Now, in all of these things, there's some cost that goes along with that. And the cost is that to change the beliefs, you have to do a pretty serious advertising campaign. That takes some money. That advertising is pretty expensive. To change the importance, that's also an advertising campaign. It's changing your packaging. It is not changing your product. Changing the attribute is changing your product. That may be as simple as adding a scent or changing a scent or deleting a scent, but it might be as difficult as changing the entire product. So I want you to understand that from a product, price, place, promotion point of view, these are not inexpensive things to do. All right, so sociocultural influences. The second thing that we're going to talk about. So, you guys can be influenced. I know you'd like to stand up there and say, no, I can't be influenced. Well, you're going to be influenced by a bunch of different things. You're going to be influenced by opinion leaders. You're going to be influenced by your own reference groups. You have already been influenced by your family, and you could be influenced by word of mouth, meaning social marketing and social media. Okay, so from this point of view, I wanted you guys to understand that one of the most basic places that you can be influenced by is your family, especially with your routine product purchases. So if you look at all your routine product purchases, you look at your toothpaste, you look at your shampoo, you look at your deodorant, you look at your dish soap, you look at your laundry detergent, honestly, most of those you're probably using because that's what your family used and that's what your mom bought, okay? Word of mouth, I think we're going to talk about opinion leaders. These are people to whom you look up to. Okay, so they could be sports authorities, they could be politicians, they could be celebrities of some sort, they could be important people within your community. So you define who your opinion leader is. We'll talk a little bit more about opinion leaders and a little bit more about your reference groups. In your reference groups, I want you to think about sort of who and what groups you belong to right now. So, you know, if I was to list all of the groups to which I belong, I'm married, so I belong to the group of people that are married. I'm a certain age, so I'm 46. I belong to the people that are between 40 and 50 years old. I'm a mom, so I actually belong to a bunch of moms groups. I am religious, so I belong to a religious organization. These all become reference groups. I'm a member of a political party. I'm a member of a gym. I am a member of, I like to travel internationally, so I'm a member of a group of people who like to travel internationally. Then you add in all of the other groups to which you belong, like the fact that I have a King Soopers card, and I have a Target card, and I have a United Miles Plus card, and I have all of this. You can be influenced. All of those different groups are trying to vie for my attention. So reference groups was one of the ones, so talking about reference groups, all those groups to whom you currently belong. So those are your associative groups. That's where you currently are in life. So you guys are students. So you belong to a group of students. You belong to a group of 2-year students as opposed to a group of 4-year students. Doesn't mean you won't belong to that, but you don't right now. You belong to Front Range. So from a smaller point of view, a lot of you said you were studying business, so you belong to the business students group, which is then part of Front Range Community College. And Front Range Community College is then part of the Colorado Community College system. So you belong to these groups, okay? So think about all the other groups to whom you belong. Do you have a significant other? Are you in a relationship? Are you currently living at home? Do you have children? Do you own a car? Do you live in an apartment? Do you have a job? All of these different things to which you could belong and participate in, those are all groups, those are your associative groups, because that's where you are now. Your aspiration groups are where you want to go. So because you're sitting in my classroom, I'm assuming you wish or you aspire to be at a minimum, Front Range Community College graduate, potentially then also a 4-year, university graduate. So where do you want to be? Who do you want to work for? And when I asked you about what you wanted your career to be, some of you said, I want to own my own business. So you aspire to be an entrepreneur. Those are the groups where you don't belong to that yet, but you want to get there. Finally, we have dissociative groups. Dissociative groups are the groups to which you would not belong. You won't touch them with a 10-foot pole, and everybody has one. Okay, so whether it's your political beliefs, you belong to this party and you absolutely would not belong to the other party or pick a party, whether you're religious or not religious, okay, whether you believe in marriage or you don't believe in marriage, whether you believe in parenthood or you don't believe in parenthood, it's those things where I am not going to do this. Never in a million years would I be associated with those people. Okay, so there are groups that you avoid. Your family, how are you? Where are you right now? Most of you, I do believe, are young and single. Okay, so you are literally over here in this right here. I am middle-aged with children, so I'm over here in this. Okay, but are you? And what is your family like? So even if you're young and single, what about your parents? Are they middle-aged without dependent children? Are your parents divorced? Are they remarried? Are they older married? Are they obviously not without children since you're here? But what does this look like? So then from this, we need to think about what our own consumer looks like. So who's purchasing whatever it is we're buying? If you're talking about minivans, you're probably looking at young and married with children, middle-aged married with children, young divorced with children, middle-aged divorced with children, but minivans are probably in one of these sections. Sports cars, young married without children, older married without children, middle-aged married without children, middle-aged divorced without children. So what product are we selling? And then how does where we are in the family change that? So during the Super Bowl, there was a Pampers commercial for diapers, okay? And it featured John Legend and Chrissy Teigen, and it also featured Adam Levine talking about changing dirty diapers. And I don't think that if you'd asked Adam Levine 10 years ago, whereas a young rocker married without children, he thought he would be, first of all, thought he would be doing a Pampers commercial on the Super Bowl, I don't think he probably would have said he would have thought that. But his lifestyle has changed. Okay, so as you move through this and as you become potentially young and married or with a significant other, but without children, what you need is going to change. As you become young and married or young with a significant other with children, you're going to need different products than if you are when you're older or when you were younger and when you were single. So how your family works changes how you make decisions. So if you're talking about sort of in a committed relationship, and they use the word spouse, but we'll use significant other, there are going to be some products that one spouse makes the decision on. And in the United States, for the most part, in a heterosexual couple, especially with household products like shampoo, like laundry detergent, like toothpaste, for the most part, it's going to be the wife, okay? There are some products that you are both going to make a decision on. If you are buying a new house, most likely you are going to make that decision jointly. In other words, you each get a vote. So I want you to think about some products where you think that one spouse or the other would be dominant in making the decision about what to purchase. Okay, and then some types of products that might fit into that. Then once you throw kids into the mix, or third generations where you have grandparents living with the parents living with the children, you start to get different roles. So there might be the person who does all of the information. So my husband loves to collect the information. He loves to collect the information. So he tends to take on the role of information gatherer, whereas my child tends to take on the role of influencer. Hey, Dad, I want X. I think I need X. I think I need this. In my household, I tend to take on the decision maker role, as in I make the decision, this is what we're going to do. I make the purchase decision, but a lot of times the things I purchase, I'm not the user. So from a marketing standpoint, we need to think about the fact that who we need to talk to. Okay, because the consumer that we need to talk to may not be the person who's actually using the product. And the consumer that we need to talk to might be the information gatherer, it might be definitely the decision maker, but how do all of those roles influence how our product gets picked? And as that decision process becomes more involved, you get more influence along this list of who actually has a say in the sort of the decision-making process. Finally, you've got subculture. So there are buying patterns and there are subcultures in the United States. You have distinctly different buying patterns in the Hispanic marketplace than you do in the African American buying place, than you do in the Asian American buying place. So we need to understand you may very well be working then for a product that is sold to a subculture within the U.S., or even, out from that, you may be working for a product that is not sold in the U.S., but that's sold ex-U.S. in a different country where they have a different culture. And so if you remember back to chapters 3 and chapter 6, culture becomes very important in how you actually sell a product. So understanding how this works is very important. And finally, you get class. There's no way around it. You have to take into account how much money does my product cost, and is my product for everybody. You know, toothpaste, it costs, you know, $5 to buy toothpaste. Well, the upper class uses toothpaste, and if they're either working in the lower class use toothpaste, that doesn't matter. The you know, but upper class, you might be looking at some more of those high-end type products. You might be looking at Gucci, you might be looking at Chanel, you might be looking at BMWs. Whereas middle class, you're looking at Ford, Dodge, Chevy, okay? Working lower class, you might be looking at Kia or Hyundais, all right? So, and that's just, you know, sort of with cars. But how much your product costs dictates which one of the classes within whichever country you're currently marketing, which one of those classes is going to be able to afford your product. So hopefully this helps. As I said before, if you have any questions, you can always text me on my cell phone, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you have a great week. Thanks. Bye.